Tell me the truth.
The easiest thing to do with this movie is play more with the is he or is he not this guy, and that the overriding kind of surfacey tension of the movie, but the character stuff, the meat of the movie is really what's going on with Tom and what's going on with Edie as they struggle through their relationship.
I like this idea of, and tell me what you think about this at the end when I go over there, I'm just having those thoughts now. Oh my God, my whole life is a sham.
Yeah.
You know, David's scripts are really lean because he is interested in the actors filling things out.
In a sense, they are the custodians of their own characters. They protect those characters. They want to make them integrated and whole. And you, as a director, really should listen to that. You really should not move them around like pawns on a chessboard. You should allow them to be alive and to collaborate with you.
And you know, from this point on, I feel like I can, you know, barely stand up, basically, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, so here, more, you know, here, but not just... I think I don't have it together, and that's why I go there, right?
Let me be honest, when I first read the script, I thought, supportive wife. And then I read it again, and I started to find some things in her that she was more of the man in this family than Tom was. Then when it changes, she kind of is forced back into this feminine, receptive, vulnerable place. And as soon as I found that shift, I started to look at it differently.
This killer that Fogarty warned me about.
I walk in and it's the first time I confront him. And when I actually hear the words that he's not this person, it's like a physical thing takes over my being and I just run to the bathroom and puke.
Maria had a really nice idea of going into the bathroom just for a second and then coming back out. And we don't need much, obviously.
How much time do you have? Because that comes out.
But enough.
Yeah. Peter's so slow that you got hours.
That was a bit of a surprise because it was not in the script. We had an extra door on the set, but which was mainly for crew access, so that they wouldn't be stuck with one door to get into a set. So all of a sudden, she's running out the door, and unfortunately, it's the sound man or something.
He's not really slow, but he can tell you how long it will take.
We were running around frantically looking for extra flats, and luckily we had a couple of extra sinks and toilets, which we were able to get into the set on time. But it was instant set. And with David, you don't just build a corner of the set. You like to give him the whole thing because you don't know what's going to happen.
It's very interesting in a scene like that not to play into the other actor's energy, not to make it about Tom, but to keep in your own character's energy because it's really traumatic.
What are you? Some kind of multiple personality schizoid.
There's an anger there, but it's not just an anger with the person who in some way has deceived you or disappointed you. You're also angry at yourself for falling for it.
Jack's name? Sarah's name? Stahl? Tom Stahl? Did you just make that up?
And let's clear the lights for now, guys, until we find the shot.
We very rarely talk about visualization because we both like to discover that as we get close to the movie and see the different elements that go in front of the camera.
27.
You might even manage it without taking the board out. If I'd come up with a formula, say, oh, let's put the camera off level, it would no longer have an effect after a couple of minutes.
Oh, you know what? This is different. It holds very, very nicely.
Yes. So I think we rely on what's going on under the surface of the story to give that off-kilter feeling rather than an obvious formula in the imagery.
Okay. We shot most of this movie on a 27mm lens, which is quite wide, and is not a normal lens that you would use for close-ups, but I think over 90% of the film was shot with this lens, and it's just trying to find a coherent, cohesive visual equivalent to the psychology of the characters and the dynamics of the rooms and how people occupy their spaces and so on.
One way to do this, I suppose, would have been to look at everything that's Tom as Tom, and then everything that's Joey is Joey. But what I think is more interesting is to blend them, and then you sort of waver back and forth, especially in stressful moments or as things start to break down. It's just to see some bleed through. I spent the next few years becoming Tom Stahl. And Edie, you gotta know this. I was not really born until I met you. It is not a lie that I did fall in love with Edie, that I still love her, that we had kids that I love.
I
that we name together. None of that is a lie. I now believe that completely.
I needed him to be convincing as both halves of a role that requires an almost a schizophrenia, that you can be several different people that appear at different times. We create an identity. In other words, it's not something that's there completely genetically. There's a lot of will and intelligence and creativity that goes into creating an identity for ourselves.
I can't believe this